Thank you, Jesse. Oops, I got to tell the computer to stop worrying about that.
So I don't know if you're hearing penny whistle in the background coming out of my, you are, okay. I'm gonna mostly go mute then, so it's not that prominent.
Okay. Yeah, I hear a little tiny noise or something.
Yeah, it's a flute rehearsal night, but they do a virtual rehearsal, which is pretty high degree of difficulty, but they also now do penny whistles, which is particularly pleasing to the ear.
All right, so welcome everybody to the October 13th Caroline Town Board business meeting. I'll go ahead and open the meeting. It's being held here at the town hall, and people are invited to attend in person if they wish, if they are vaccinated and wear a mask. And the meeting's being recorded. We're hybrid by Zoom and will be posted. The recording will be posted on the website. So first, I will ask if there's anyone who wishes to address the board at privilege of the floor. And I see a hand up, and is that Mary Beth O'Connor?
Yes.
Okay, great. Go ahead, Mary Beth.
Okay, I'm the one who's been sending out the SOS emails about the construction at 144 Middle, and I just want to thank Mark and the town council members and the code officer for responding. Appreciate that a lot. I want to know two things. One, what's going to happen next at that site, and also how the folks at the bottom of our hill that produced a commercial operation in the last, I'm not sure how many months, a year and a half, I don't know, I don't remember. Mid Lakes insulation and rocks and docks and ran something.
Mhm.
How were they allowed to do that commercial development? And are there any repercussions for them or for the people up the road? And I believe they're related. So those are my two questions.
Great, thank you, Mary Beth.
Yeah.
I will respond with what I know. So the activity has been put to a stop, and Corey has, been working with that. He had an agreement with the owner of that property to clear brush and put in some driveway gravel.
Right.
And so the next step would be is if they plan to proceed, they would need to submit a building permit, a proper building permit application, which has not happened at this point. So that's as far as what went on, the development down at the corner, I can't comment on in detail. I know that Brook Greenhouse was involved in interactions with the contractor there. So yeah, I think, from my own opinion, I think that we need to look at the permitting process and see if that's working properly and try to get a handle on these things. Am
I correct in my assumption that both of those projects have violated the moratorium on commercial development?
I believe you are, if the one on the corner is a commercial project, and it certainly looks like it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be true, in my opinion. So, and the problem is, I don't want to say too much more, but yeah, so
I don't know that we can speak to that yet, Mark, because if it was a renovation, I mean, I would hesitate
That's
to
true.
judge whether or not
Okay.
there's a violation of something when you don't have enough information right now.
That's a good point, Catherine. Yeah. So.
Well, it was kind of a renovation, but it was kind of a development of 3 new businesses.
Yeah, so that's,
Well, the issue isn't whether new businesses developed. The issue would be whether there was a violation of the land use moratorium for
Right,
commercial development. And
right.
also, it would be a matter of also when that, any development there,
mhm,
at what point that actually happened. It could have preceded the moratorium,
yeah.
for that
Okay.
matter.
Well,
Yeah.
if Brooke was code officer at the time, that's entirely possible. But it's certainly worth looking into.
Okay,
Mhm.
thank you.
So yeah, and I would pull back my statement a little bit, Mary Beth. I
Okay.
agree with Catherine and others that, we need more information. I don't know exactly what went on there, so,
Okay, thank you.
great, thank you. Is there anyone else that wishes to address the board tonight? And if so, please speak up. Great, okay. We'll move on and check my. Trying to figure out why the screen is showing you, Mary Beth, not switching to the main
Oh.
room.
Well, I can kill my video.
Okay, yeah. It's still, I'm not quite sure why it's doing that, because when I speak, it should be showing the town hall. Could someone else speak up from the board to see what happens?
I am speaking. What happens?
You
I
appear.
see you. That's the
Yeah.
same when you're speaking, Mark. So I wonder if it's a localized issue.
Okay, so now that I'm speaking, you're seeing
I
the
see
town
you.
hall?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No,
Great, okay, thanks, everybody.
if you're on speaker view, but if you're on gallery view, it wouldn't change. Just,
I'm on speaker view,
okay.
so, yeah. So, I guess now, I think we have, Joe Hoffer is going to join us at 7:15. So that's to talk about the TCAC, the dog control agreement with the SPCA. So I guess I have the budget workshop. And also, if anybody has anything to add to the agenda, I have one item. And it's a letter I received from Union Volunteer Ambulance is expanding its transport operating certificate in Broome and Tioga counties. So they are, we are one of the municipalities that is noticed about that. And so, and basically they requested a letter from me in support of their expanded operation in Broome and Tioga counties. And I suppose that's because if we had an ambulance service here, it could be impacted. So I will offer a resolution later in the meeting for authorization of that letter.
And I'd like to have a discussion about testing the water at the front of the town hall.
Sure, we can make that a short thing. Okay, great. So I'll open the budget workshop, our second budget workshop, and I did invite the court. It is either Judge Barr or Judge Reinbold here on the Zoom meeting tonight.
Joe is also here, Mark. He just got here.
Joe's here.
Okay, then I would say that it makes sense to move on to that agenda item, if we could. So is Joe in the meeting now? I'll wait till he comes in.
Here, yes.
Great. Welcome, Joe. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
Great. So we are considering the next 3-year agreement with our animal control agreement with the SPCA. And there were questions and curiosity about the agreement and services. And so Catherine suggested inviting you here to talk with us briefly and field questions. So great. So I guess I will open it up for any questions from the board for Joe. Or if you would like to make an introductory statement, Joe, about the animal control agreement, that would be awesome.
Yeah, sure. So I guess I can introduce myself. My name's Joe Hoffer. I've been the animal control officer for you folks since 2009. And I guess you have me here this evening to well, field any questions you guys have, and you know, I guess just kind of maybe clarify our contract a little bit, services that we provide, things of that nature. Yeah, if there's anything I can help clear up or any questions you guys have, feel free to fire away.
And I might also ask Joe, if it's doesn't come up with specific questions, it would be wonderful to hear a little bit about your interpretation, you know, like pros, cons, like obviously every town makes a decision about whether or not to engage in a contract. But I think sometimes there's a lack of understanding about what some of the benefits or, you know, burdens might be with either or. So if you could help, you know, the board, obviously I have some professional understanding of this as a veterinarian, but I want to make sure that everybody understands what we're really talking about in terms of what you all do.
Sure. Yeah. I can certainly do that. I don't want to, you know, there's a lot of folks out there that, well, I won't say a lot of folks, but there are some folks out there that provide animal control services, that kind of do things more, you know, they have a small kennel at their home, and provide services. Sometimes these folks, you know, have another full-time job. They do it on the side, things of that nature. Obviously at the SPCA, Tompkins County Animal Control, this is our primary function, along with the humane investigations that we do for the entire county. This is, you know, this is our main focus. And what we do, we have the kennel facility at the SPCA where the animals go. So, you know, everything just kind of flows together well there. You know, there are a couple of towns in the county, being Dryden and the town of Lansing, that have gone with different outfits in the past. And we still do the humane investigations in those counties, so we still frequently interact with the public in those areas. And, you know, we hear different things as far as, you know, why doesn't the SPCA do animal control here anymore? And, you know, I mean, obviously it comes down to money typically. But, you know, yeah, I certainly feel like, without bad mouthing any of the other organizations or people that do the sort of thing, you know, it is our primary profession. It's something that we've been doing for a long time. And I feel like we offer a great service to the towns that contract with us. So.
Following up on that, Joe, and to Catherine's point, like, yeah, so what are the, you know, what are those what are the, you know, the high points of what TCAC offers towns that others can't or don't?
Well, again, I can't compare myself directly. I don't know a lot of the other members who may be offering animal control services. But I can say, you know, as part of the contract with us, the town of Caroline has received 24/7 emergency service for the entirety of that contract. So, you know, our officers are getting calls from, anytime from 2 o'clock in the afternoon to 2 o'clock in the morning. And
Yeah.
we are expected to respond to those calls, whether it's picking up stray animals or assisting the police if they are have an issue with a motorist who has an animal in a vehicle that may need to be housed at the SPCA overnight. Things of that nature on an emergency basis. I mean, obviously we issue tickets for the town for dog licensing, other dog control infractions. We also will do what we call TTOs, or talk to owners, for animal related conflicts between neighbors. We have a dog that's getting off of a neighbor's property and going over to visit another neighbor. We will go and speak with them, give them a copy of the law, basically give them an opportunity to fix the situation before it, escalates to a point where we may be issuing tickets and bringing people into court, that sort of thing.
Hey there, everybody. Sorry to be late.
Hi, Jim. Welcome.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Jim, Joe, what it says in the contract, the formula for Town of Caroline's portion is the population, the human population, the dog population, and what I guess I would call the experience rating.
Yes.
Do you know, or can you give me the arithmetic behind it?
Sure, absolutely. And those numbers, so just some historical background if it's helpful. Animal control originally was the services that were being provided were very heavily skewed towards the town of Ithaca and the city of Ithaca, who have the highest people populations and the highest dog populations. So in 2009, and I know this goes way back, it even predated, I've been at the SPCA for 10 years, but this even predated me. I started there in 2011. They did a recalculation. Two things were going on. One is that the services that Tompkins County Animal Control is providing was not being, we were doing it at a loss, basically. And there were several municipalities, the city and the town being two of them, who felt like it very unfairly they were being charged more than everybody else. So in 2009, a recalculation was done where they took into account three factors: the dog enumeration, or the number of dogs in each municipality, and they went through a lot of pains to sort of do a door-to-door enumeration of the number of animals in each municipality. The other two were based they were trying to do some proportion based on land area, like how much land is being covered by staff, that sort of thing. But at the time, it felt like the fairest way to do that was to look at the people population of the municipality and sort of use that as a per capita cost, and then look at the units of service, how much time. So the SPCA, Tompkins County Animal Control, went back and said, how much time are we spending in sort of each of these municipalities? So there was a formula done. It was called sort of at the time, the 1/3, method. 1/3 people population, 1/3 dog population, 1/3 units of service. I don't know how far Joe got into the question of units of service, but Caroline in particular, or from our statistics, was based on roughly 9.59%, of our units of service. So the number of times we were spending doing all the things Joe was saying, kind of a thing. The other factors were just easier, the census and, the dog population. Very few municipalities have done a dog census since then. There, as I said to Ulysses, had a similar question, but dog censuses can be very cost prohibitive. I mean, at the time, people paid sort of exorbitant amounts of money, even hourly, for 2 or 3 people to go door to door to sort of count dogs. As an example, Ulysses did and actually, not to go off topic, but I actually suggest Ulysses had a very successful in 2019 online dog census, where they basically asked everybody in their database, but then also asked residents sort of on the honor system, let us know how many dogs you have in your household. we'll recalculate that into our situation just to get an idea. We try, as the SPCA, try any dogs that we know of. So obviously, if something comes in stray and they're not licensed, we report that back to the municipality. If people use our public spay and neuter clinic and they're unlicensed in the town or municipality, we give that information to the clerks. Now, that relies on the clerk, obviously, to go back and say, okay, the Smiths use the SPCA to have their dogs spayed and neutered. They're either on our records or they're not. That then gives that clerk the ability to be like, hey, we know you have this dog in your municipality. You should be paying the license fee for it, et cetera. So the model was just developed in that, again, that 1/3 model. Now, people population, at least based on the 2020 census preliminary numbers or whatever numbers are publicly available, hasn't changed all that much. I mean, we've seen some numbers change in the city, the town, you know, some, but really statistically insignificant numbers. Same thing with the dog populations, based on what people are reporting, kind of insignificant numbers. So the way that this model works is sort of static in the sense that it's relying on historical data. Joe did some, compiling of data and found, I think, Caroline is roughly at this point, what'd you say, Joe, like 10.5% of the time that we're spending is in that municipality historically over the last 3 years, or?
So, yeah, so I went back, I did the last 5 years from 2016 to 2020, just to kind of give you guys an example on basically what you're getting for your money. The town of Caroline came in at 10%, actually 10.4% of the stray dog population in that time. And you guys actually also came in at exactly 10.4% of the units of service. And from talking to Jim, it's my understanding, I think that the portion that you guys are paying, I think, is in the 9 to 9.5% range. So
yeah,
you're
town of
actually-
Caroline, again, based on those numbers when it was originally renegotiated, pays about 9.5% of the overall budget of Tompkins County Animal Control.
Okay. So yeah, so the units of service and stray dogs are about 9.5 to 10% of our overall workload.
And even I would say that that's sort of statistically insignificant. You know, that's an average over 5 years, which is a good indicator. Your people population hasn't changed all that much. You know, I would be the first one to say that, like, I don't think a dog enumeration is worth that door-to-door style of the way it was done is worth. I mean, there were some, Lansing, for example, who's not part of the Tompkins County Animal Control, they budgeted like $7,000 one year to do a dog enumeration, and I don't even think they were able. I don't even remember if they were able to complete it. Like, it's just a very time-consuming process. I don't think that you get your ROI with that door-to-door paying people hourly. You know, you've got to put out an RFP, find people to do it. Like, I would
As
say,
a previous dog enumerator in the town of Caroline, I can tell you all about.
yeah, I mean,
very
you're
inefficient.
knocking on doors and people are home where they're not. You know, like, I'll even tell you honestly, as a town of Ithaca resident, the dog enumerator came to my house in 2006 before I was even involved with the SPCA. And we told them that we had 3 dogs and they weren't licensed because we had just moved from Broome County. We never even got anything in the mail saying that we should relicense them, you know? So I don't know if the ROI is on there, but one of the things I did say to, I think Ulysses had a great model for it. And I told them to please, they're going to go through some, I think, a supervisor change and maybe a clerk change. I think the clerk is, I don't remember, but maybe the clerk is staying and the supervisor is changing. But I thought it'd be great for them to give that to the group as a model for, like, how you can do an enumeration in a really cost-effective way. Again, it relies on the honor system. So if someone's going to try and circumvent the system, and if they're going to lie, they're going to lie, right? They're going to say they don't have any dogs in the home, that's fine. But you can cross-check that against your records and see what you have. Because obviously the strays and the spay and neuter stuff is only going to catch a very small percentage. But like I said, I just don't see the return on investment to spend the amount of money it would actually take to do a real enumeration. And there's several formulas out there. Like, the ASPCA, the Humane Society, they can actually provide you with some formulas and say, and we'd be happy to provide this to you as well. They can actually say, based on your land area, your people population, here's how many theoretical dogs statistically a community your size probably has. That doesn't necessarily even help either, because you're relying on those licenses are money to offset your costs for animal control. So unless you're going out there and actively pursuing that revenue, which I think municipalities should, and I think the easiest way to do that, and again, Ulysses did that by mail and email and through their newsletter, and they had a lot of honest citizens who just said, we didn't even know. I mean, part of it is education. We had lots of people say, like, we didn't even know our dog needed to be licensed, you know, and that was added revenue for them. So I would always encourage a municipality to do that just as a matter of good business practices.
Yeah, and the control is just dog control. It's not, I mean, we keep going back and forth between animal control and dog control, but it's just dog control, right? I mean,
Yeah, technically New York State unfortunately doesn't care so much. I don't want to say care is not the right word. You know, they're not so much. Ag and markets isn't interested. There's nothing, there's no inspection. We obviously have our facility inspected, but they don't even care about our cat housing. You know, they're looking at our dog housing, how many strays we can house, what the state of those runs are, vaccination history on those animals that come in, vaccination records, return to owner records. Cats are just not part of the ag and markets. And obviously we provide stray cat control for all of Tompkins County, whether you are I mean, that's just our mission-based work. You know, we're just because but yes, in this scenario, it is literally just by New York State standards, dog control.
And
And
I'll add to
licensing.
that. I'll add to that in that there are no cat control laws on the
Right.
books for any town in New York State that I'm aware of. So, you know, we frequently get calls from neighbors who are frustrated because their neighbor's cat is coming over, digging in their flower bed, or you know, chasing off their songbirds, things of that nature. Unfortunately, without having any dog or cat control laws on the books, we have no laws to enforce. So, you know, when you get into the overarching idea of animal control with dogs, you have a dog running around the neighborhood, you know, digging around somebody's foundation or attacking their cat or their chickens. You have a situation that needs to be dealt with, you know, pretty much immediately. I guess in the eyes of the law, for whatever reason, cats have just never extended to the feline population. So that's why we do primarily say dog control when we're talking about animal control, because
Right.
that's essentially what it is.
Because New York State, go ahead.
You ever see a cat attack a chicken?
What's
No.
that?
I'm just trying to be silly.
But right, when we talk,
A lot of my questions, and it's been very helpful. I don't know if the other members of the board have more questions.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jim, did you have something to add there?
no, I was just gonna say, to Joe's point, is just New York State is basically mandating that a municipality has dog control. It has nothing to do with cats, anything like that. You're right, Joe, like obviously we get lots of nuisance calls about stray cats, feral colonies, you know, et cetera, et cetera. We deal with that all over Tompkins County, but it's not necessarily the portion of what New York State is telling a municipality has to have for dog control.
Great. Any other questions for Jim or Joe?
If somebody calls me as a board member and says they're not getting any satisfaction with dog control, who should I tell them to call? Just
I mean, obviously us, I mean, Joe or honestly, I feel Joe fields many of those emails. I field many of those emails. One of the things and we've had a few actually kind of rough situations. I don't think Caroline's not ringing a bell, but we've had a few rough situations recently. The problem is I think one thing that it boils down to is I like to say to people, I think you have more power than we do. You know, like we would love to go in, and if we know that there's an animal at risk or an animal being mistreated or a nuisance situation with a neighbor, we would love to go in and deal with that. The problem is the law isn't always on our side. I mean, people make claims all the time about there not being food present or water present, or, you know, the animal's just a nuisance, and we can go in and we can deal with that. Most of the times, unfortunately, when we do go, there is food present, there is water present. And again, and a lot of times, because it's your neighbor, you know, a lot of times people aren't willing to like file the actual complaint and sign the complaint that Joe has to bring them, or provide evidence that they say that they have. That makes our jobs much more difficult from a nuisance perspective. The other issue is, and again, I don't think Caroline is an example of this either. I think we've always, I can't think of any situation offhand, but we do have situations where judges in certain municipalities dismiss things very quickly from a nuisance perspective, where they don't, animal control goes out and does the work, they follow with complaint, it's a dog that's crossing the property line, it's unleashed, or it might be a threat to their chickens, or, you know, in the more rural areas, their cats, or whatever the case might be. But there's or even honestly, like, how many tickets, Joe, have you written about, you know, unlicensed dogs where it's just sort of thrown out and where people don't pay them, but there's no follow-up on the court to, like, you know, make it happen? Or, and then that sort of sets the standard for like, well, if the judge didn't enforce my $40 for my license, what does the neighbor have to get their license, you know, renewed for? You know, it just makes our jobs a little bit different. So having a buy-in from the clerk to make sure that they are looking at lapse licenses and getting us those names so that we can write tickets for those. Again, that's a revenue driver for the municipality. You know, but making sure that the judge takes any of those situations seriously, because we get shed in that light of like, well, the SPCA, quote unquote, or animal control isn't doing anything about it. We can only do what the law allows us to do, or what we're getting support from the local court system to do, you know?
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Yeah, I will mention here what you said about the municipality encouraging licensing and doing that. So our town clerk recently did that in our town newsletter and got a tremendous response from the public.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because those, you know, again, those impoundment fees and those licensing fees are helping you guys to offset the cost of the control, right? And if you're not, and again, I do think most, I mean, we can be pessimistic about people, but I do think most people are going to be honest about it. And we have a lot of, it's a very transient community, Tompkins County. You have people coming and going, like, you know, you move into town, you don't know it exists, you sign up, you know, keeping people abreast to the fact that you're in New York State, you live here in Caroline, your dog should be licensed, you know, there's this fee. I think most people, again, like I said, if you're going to lie about it, you're going to lie about it, right? If you're going to try and circumvent the system, you can do that. But, you know, I think most people want to contribute to, you know, the solution. And I think that, and that helps us in the end, if we know that an animal's licensed and we have an address on record, that can help us reunite the pet, or, you know, find an owner when something like that happens.
Exactly. Yeah. And I what you said is exactly what I understood from Jesse. That a lot of people were really
Good.
appreciative and wanted to do it. So, yeah. Great. Well, thanks so much, Jim and Joe. We really, really appreciate you coming and talking with us tonight.
And just explaining what you do and how you do it. Thank you.
Anytime. Again, always feel free to reach out with questions. And like I said, I know Ulysses, and that's in your newsletter, that's great. But I definitely think that I do think that there's an opportunity for not just with Caroline or Ulysses or whatever the municipality might be, but I do think that sharing of information and that a lot of the clerks are doing some really great work. And I think, you know, a lot of the clerks also are stretched for time, they're stretched for resources, and maybe some places they're working part-time, you know, like, I think keeping that line of communication open for everybody just helps them do their jobs better.
Yeah, that's a great point. I agree. Great. Okay. Thank you so much. With that, I will go out of order and offer a resolution to approve the Tompkins County Animal Control contract for 2022-24.
I will second that.
Thanks, Catherine. Do I have a second? Or I am, you are the second. Thank you.
I'll third it if you want me to third it.
Yeah. So I have a third and a fourth. So any further discussion? Everybody okay? Great, thanks. So without further ado, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thanks so much.
Thank you, guys. Have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks,
Thank
Jim.
you.
Thanks.
Take care, guys.
Take care. All right, so I will now, Catherine has a question. Catherine, go ahead.
Add necessarily to this agenda because it's already in progress, but this was a great transition. I know you and I had some individual conversations about, I have some concerns about the way we handle the licensing, and I just want to introduce the social justice perspective to the decoupling of this information from fees. And I have some ideas about that. So if we could add that at some other time, but just while we have momentum to talk about what animal control does and the importance of enumerating, one of the barriers to enumeration is that currently it's coupled to a fee. And so there are ways to decouple that.
Great, I think that would be great. So are you thinking, we could just package that for one of the November meetings?
Sure, yeah, sure.
Okay, great idea. Let's see, so I just want to check, is in case are either of the justices here now on the meeting? No. Per chance?
Judge Barr was here and she sent me a direct chat message. Unfortunately, have to exit. Discussion concerns court and income from court. By law, need to exit. And I wrote back, I think we are just about done with this. We started with SPCA since the judge had yet to appear. Sorry. So I don't know if she'll come back.
Invite her back?
Nope.
We can't invite her back somehow? Does someone have her
guess I could
phone?
try to send her an email.
Okay, so if she comes back on, we
Maybe I'll
can,
try to send her an email.
okay,
And
all right.
unfortunately, we weren't really discussing her court, but nevertheless.
Great. All right, so without further ado, I will move on to my supervisor's report, which I sent out earlier today. So I already mentioned the notice from the Union Volunteer Emergency Squad. We got the notice of foreclosure filings from the Tompkins County Treasury Manager. That's in the on the correspondence file on the corner of the desk there if you want to examine that. We received, I sent you an email earlier about the Department of Public Service. This was like the day before the county legislature was going to vote on the Fujitsu study for the broadband study. And New York State announced a comprehensive broadband connectivity act requiring the Public Service Commission to study the availability, reliability, and cost of high-speed internet services throughout the state. And this, not only are they doing a survey, but they've hired a contractor to do site examination, ground truthing of technology. And so I'm not exactly sure exactly what they're doing, but this seems kind of like what everybody is wanting for a better understanding of how we provide the service for our community. So I wondered if this would supplant or, support the county effort in that regard. And then I'll mention we did receive in September a $5,000 reimbursement from the Comp Alliance for good performance for worker safety. So that was nice. Okay, those are the correspondences of note, supervisor's notes. I already mentioned that I spoke at two of the legislature meetings encouraging continuation of the Fujitsu study. And as Dan Klein reported, that was defeated. I think there was the prevailing feeling was people felt like there was more urgency and they wanted to pursue immediate build out with individual internet service providers. And I think there was a concern that the Fujitsu approach was, not adequate to address the problem. So it was a difficult decision, I think. LED streetlights. I learned the other day, all of a sudden, that they found another supplier for the part they need, and they should be contacting me soon with a installation schedule to complete this project. So fingers crossed. That was just like 2 days ago. I'm working with Emily to wrap up Brighten Up. I want to get that all finished up so we can close out that $100,000 grant. Stair glide was installed here in the town hall, and it seems to be working well. And I did notify Rick Morgan of our decision to support their dry hydrant project on McGrath Road. So presumably, I don't know if Bob has more information on that, but he'll be moving forward with that. The other note I want to make is in regard to what Mary Beth O'Connor mentioned at Privilege of the Floor, and has been a source of concern over the last more than a month. This is 144 Mid-Ar Road. So Corey is working on that and has issued a notice of violation, is working with them to resolve this and clarify the situation and what is permitted and what is not. And Tyler Mix and a few of his accomplices did stain the deck here at the town hall, and it looks really nice. So it's on the homepage now. And that's my report. Any questions about that? Great. Okay.
Just wondering briefly about the concern about the LED. This is separate from your report, but the brightness issue and whether that's something we'll discuss at some time or another, but this has been a concern that's been raised.
Okay, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because I can address that. So the concern was raised, and I immediately reposted the 90% design document from NIPA on the website, and I provided that document to the person who reached out, and it turns out he actually has some technical, he said, this is great because I understand this, which I don't. And so he said, this looks really good because the lights are dimmable. There's something that can be done. Also, NIPA let us know it is possible to put baffles on, just physical baffles on the light fixture to direct light in particular directions.
That's so great. I didn't know that. That's super.
Yeah, all of those things. And so I did reach out to the NIPA contractor, the manager, the project manager, and he said, yeah, we got some immediate feedback, but it was very brief. I did a field drive-by of all the lights. I thought they looked great. And he said, yeah, let it sit for a while, and then we can address issues that people, may have concerns about. The person that I sent the information to was relieved, and really he felt like, yeah, we can manage this. So I did drive by his house, and it's right in Brooktondale, and I could see how, yeah, it could be pretty close to his picture window or whatever. So, yeah, good question. Great. Is Corey here on the meeting? I'm wondering.
I don't see him.
Okay, so I'll move on to the town clerk's report. Jesse, do you want to give us a report?
Sure, mine's really fast. It was a busy month with hunting licenses. And just because I just wanted to make note, because a lot of people asked about hunting fees and things like that for the state and the town. I sold $490 in hunting licenses, and for the month of September, and the town kept $27.75, and the rest goes to New York State DEC. So it's not anything that, obviously, I don't think people think that we charge that, but it's not a huge revenue for the town. It was just something important to be able to provide to residents here. And there was one marriage license issued, a couple fishing licenses, 37 dog renewals, and I collected 7 building permit fees, and a check was written to the supervisor on October 5th. And that's it.
Thank you for the check, Jesse. Yeah, I took it right to the bank, so. Tim,
Thank you, Jesse, for helping the population with their licenses, so they don't have to truck all the way across town to like Dick's Sporting Goods.
yeah,
Thanks.
great, thank you, Jesse. Yeah, I think people really do appreciate that service. Highway Superintendent's report. Is Bob here? He was on early.
I'm here.
Okay, great.
Try to make mine pretty quick too. We recently paved Middle Road 2 days ago and finished paving Chestnut Road today. We haven't done shoulders yet, but that is on the schedule. There was some concerns about shoulders not being put on Snyder Hill. But again, we don't own a shoulder machine, and it's something that we kind of have to share, with some other towns and bring in a little help to get it done. So just a scheduling thing at this point, getting everybody on the same page. And we're going to try to do all 3 roads at the same time. Other than that, we did accept the new loader. Our older loader was taken on trade. So that deal's all done and finalized at this point. We have recently, with all the commotion and the bridge being out, everybody in town seems to be more than agitated at this point with having to drive around. But it's also created a pretty big safety hazard for my crew especially, and the crew of just the paving crew in the last 3 days. And at some point we're going to work on some kind of a program to make work zones a little bit safer. At this point, anything we did would make it safer for sure. Some of it may have to be pretty drastic measures at this point. But we did have 3 guys on a paving crew just about get run over for nothing, because somebody said they had places to go, and that was their reasoning for it. Blew through 2 flaggers and had some words with a paver driver. So we were lucky enough to that they did give us an extra minute to get a license plate number, which I had a phone conversation with the sheriff's department. So hopefully they, got a nice visit. And with that, we'll be pushing forward with working something with the sheriff's department to maybe get a little more town time, so to say, just more of a local appearance. So I know there's a statewide program, more on the throughways. You'll see trooper cars at every work site. There's been guys in the back of dump trucks with radar guns. It's, more of a project that's stretched out statewide as far as state highways, but maybe bring some of that a little more local. And hopefully next month, maybe have a little bit more as far as some kind of traffic control that we can kind of spread around a little bit more. We do have one traffic speed device at this point. And as of today, I looked at some that were a little bit cheaper, so maybe we can have some multiples to kind of spread around town, so it's not just one that's stretched pretty thin. So other than that, I think that's about it for me.
Great,
Um,
thanks, Bob. So by speed device, you mean, are you talking about the your speed is sign?
Yeah, that's the one that we currently have. We're working on some software stuff for that.
Okay.
We should have that kind of wrapped up here shortly, I hope.
Great.
But they do make one that's a little bit, it's not so technical, a little bit more portable. So we may actually, have one of these that we can carry either in my truck or a crew truck that we can put right on a work site. Just to remind people how fast they really are going through a flagged work zone. So
That's awesome. I think that's a great idea. So,
at this point, it might be a little bit of an expense, but it'll be a pretty minimal one at this point. So
That's a very worthwhile expense.
yeah, I think so too. Great, super,
So,
thank you. Yeah.
a little update on the bridge, as I'm sure everybody's dying to hear. And I'm dying to give it to you. Precast is scheduled to be here on the 25th. It was pushed off a little bit, but they tell me it's going to be here on the 25th, and it will take them approximately a week and a half to get it covered up and start looking for blacktop at that point.
That's
So
the 25th of October, right?
the 25th of October of this month.
Great.
Like I said, it's going to stretch into November a little bit, but hopefully it doesn't snow until then. So fingers crossed that'll be done and over, and maybe the
That's
phones,
awesome news.
the phones will settle down a little bit.
Yeah. Great, thank you. That's very good news, yeah. All right. Anything else, Bob?
Maybe one thing, I guess, just to clarify on the streetlights, Mark.
Yeah.
In the end, we will basically have a tool where we can go around and adjust these lights as needed. Speaking from
Yeah.
my own experience, my living room is completely lit up like the lights on in it.
Yeah, no,
These
that's
new
exactly-
lights are, extremely bright. So I think
Yeah.
once we get it down some places, it's actually nice to have that much light. But I think there is definitely some other places we can adjust going forward.
Yeah,
And
I
it sounds
think-
like it's a pretty simple process. So
Yeah, it's exactly right, so. Yep. All right, great, thank you, Bob. As you saw today, Dan emailed us that he can't attend tonight, and he had two items that he filled us in on. One was the legislature decision on the Fujitsu study and that, and the other one was that he's advocating to apply fund balance to not raise the county taxes. So he's working on that tonight, I believe, at a meeting, a legislature meeting. Do we have any department committee or liaison updates?
Zoning Commission met last night, is discussing preparing a public information session. I almost said hearing, but it's an information session. And because of Thanksgiving and all of this kind of stuff, it looks like they're shooting for the first week of December for that. And I'm sure that'll get clarified in 2 weeks, the next time they meet, which should be 2 weeks from last night.
Great. Any questions for Tim?
hey, Tim, if I could ask you one, it's kind of relaying a little bit of information, but
Sure.
will that meeting be public?
I think it's going to have to be, there's a big discussion about this, Bobby. I think they're going to try to do a hybrid thing where maybe one of the things that they were talking about, I mean, some of it's just going to depend on where things are COVID wise in another month. But they were thinking in the worst case scenario, maybe what they could do is have the planner do an overall presentation of what's been overall, what's up with coding, with zoning, and also where they're going, and record that. And then perhaps the following day, have an in-person either Q&A or information table session, maybe someplace like the Brooktondale Fire Hall that's big enough. So they're really concerned about being able to have some kind of an in-person presentation because they're really aware of the dead zones with internet coverage. So I think it's fair to say that's a really high priority for them.
Okay, that's perfect. That answers all the questions that I was asked, believe it or not. Somehow
Yeah,
my office number.
Actually, they didn't worry about it. Yeah,
Tim, can I follow up on that a little bit, or?
sure.
So, yeah, and I was, witnessed the meeting as the meeting recorder here. So and I thought one idea that might be encapsulated in what Tim said that I really liked was, and I think Jean likes this because she did it when she did some public meetings for TCAT, was to have an open house type arrangement where people could come by. So you don't have large gatherings of people at any one time, but you do have the ability to engage with people. So you could have multiple stations, and so, but like Tim said, the zoning commission is actively working on this, and so the details are still to come.
Wait, Bobby, I can just tell you, they spent half the meeting last night discussing this, much to my consternation.
Great. Thank you, Tim. Any other committee reports? Great. Okay, moving on. I will move the resolution on the Town of Caroline COVID vaccination testing process. And so I'll just read it. It's not that long, but the attestation of vaccination. So fully vaccinated individuals, 2 weeks post final dose of vaccine should submit a photocopy of their vaccination card to Velvet to verify their vaccination. This will be kept in their personnel file confidentially. Required testing, unvaccinated individuals and anyone not choosing to report their vaccination status will be required to participate in the county's twice weekly testing program. Employees who are fully vaccinated and have provided proof of vaccination are not required to complete surveillance COVID-19 testing. However, individuals may participate in the surveillance testing program regardless of vaccination status if they wish, free of charge. The testing protocol, saliva samples for testing will be collected as per the Tompkins County Health Department's protocol. They are, as I said, saliva samples. Samples will be submitted on designated days twice a week by 10 a.m. and placed in designated transport container at the town hall offices or highway facility for pickup and transport to the drop-off location by Velvet supervisor's assistant. Anyone experiencing COVID-19 symptoms, regardless of vaccination status, should not use the county employee COVID-19 surveillance testing program or access county property. Such individuals should register for an appointment to access one of the county health sampling centers and or contact their primary care provider. A positive COVID-19 test, any employee testing positive must notify his or her supervisor and follow the public health guidance on isolating. And then compliance, if an employee does not comply with the requirements of the policy, the town will follow a progressive discipline process. And the effective date is next week. We'll start this next week, October 18th, and it shall be reviewed in December and periodically thereafter. So do I have a second? I don't think we did that part yet. Seconded by John, and discussion.
Oh, sorry, Tim, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Bobby.
I just actually had a question. Is there a way, I guess we could even rewording it, but is there any harm? What I would like to do in my department is for testing regardless of vaccination. What harm is it is there any harm in that? As we already know, vaccinated or unvaccinated, everybody can carry it. And especially in my department with the amount of people I've got coming in and out, delivery guys, fuel guys, salt, you name it. There's a tremendous amount of people in and out. But at the highway department, I actually would like to see everybody vaccinated twice a week.
Tested twice a week.
Tested, sorry.
Tested twice a week.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Questions? So I actually don't support that. I think that that somebody that is vaccinated and is following our other adopted protocols should be allowed to not test if they don't wish to. But if they wish to test, they certainly can, as is articulated in the policy. Any other thoughts or comments?
So in his department, he can just require that they all be tested twice a week.
Mark, can I just ask what the, so what the protocol is for if there's voluntary testing, does the county take care of that in the same way? So they can deposit they would be able to deposit saliva samples and the county would cover it? Is that all kosher?
That's my understanding, yes.
In the county process, it's all commingled, and then if it's positive, then they do individual.
My understanding, they're individual tests.
Their individual test right from the get-go. Periodically reviewed, I think it just should be the first of the agenda meeting at each month.
Well,
we said we'd review it, and just, what would be the criteria for ending the COVID testing policy? Just, so people know what, level of transmission.
I don't really think we can answer that, Cal. At least at this point, until there's more, guidance from, the NIH or the CDC or even the state. But I don't think that's necessarily something we should decide now at a local level without medical expertise factored into that.
Or,
Oh, yeah.
or at least from the county health.
Yeah, I mean, it should be medical expertise. I just,
you're frozen, Tim, if you said something.
I said at least from the county health department at the very least.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it should.
I mean, I guess a question I have, and maybe this is a question for Bobby, is our highway department employees masking, like on work sites when they're in vehicles together and things like that?
If we are on a job site outside, no. We try to, maintain our social distancing as much as we can. If we're in tight quarters in a truck, then, yes. But for me, and I'm speaking from having it myself, don't know where I got it or who I got it from. I don't know if it was a vaccinated person or an unvaccinated person. The hardest part is you don't know. So for me, this takes all the question out of it, how it was transmitted. And for me, I would like to see it straight across the board for the town. We all interact together. I see Mark on a regular basis, Jesse, Velvet as well. So for me, we're all looking for the same thing. But for me, this is kind of going above and beyond. And not that we have to, but I think it would be, a good move on the town's part to just do it straight across the board. And that way we know if somebody is carrying it, we know. If a vaccinated person's carrying it and we're not testing for that, we simply don't know. And we just assume that it come from an unvaccinated person. But clearly we know now things we didn't know, months ago. So that's the reason I bring it up. And that's the reason I'd like to see it, a town effort straight across the board. And I believe at this point, the county's picking up the tab for the testing. So it's not like it's costing us anything out of pocket at this point. Maybe sometime down the road when that changes, then maybe we change how we do it. But that's kind of where I stand on it.
The county's policy is as this one is articulated. So, good. I did also, I think everybody noticed Cornell's policy that came out earlier a week ago or so.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah. So,
In the policy where they're going to make all the faculty and stuff.
yeah.
What is it, Mark?
They're requiring employees to vaccinate.
Oh, you mean that? I thought you meant lowering, they just announced it, that they were lowering the sequestration time for students.
Oh,
And-
I didn't see that.
And they'll see how it goes.
Oh,
That's foolish.
yeah.
Well, I mean, I can certainly see Bobby's point. I don't know. I mean, I don't know how difficult that would be or impractical.
I mean, I think the reality is we're dealing with not even relatively, an objectively small number of humans here, right? So like, the goal is for everyone in our town to be as safe as possible and protect our most vulnerable residents, both medically and psychologically. So however we can do that, I think we're all on the same page that we want to do that. So if this policy is I mean, I've advocated before, like, I don't know why this is, shouldn't be something that is so controversial. But if it is, the fact is that it seems like it's really, we're talking about a very small number of people. So, I mean, this might even be something, given what, Bob, what you're sharing, that like, if there are particular employees who have particular questions about this, then I don't know, I'm beginning to think that maybe the most efficient way to deal with this is just to start engaging on a direct level and see what we're dealing with, because we're really talking about like less than 20 people. Right? I mean, probably far less than that. I mean, I don't even know if we have the exact number. So we could like spend a lot of time debating policy from a philosophic point of view, but that hasn't really gotten us anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess for me, this was a quick, easy, and it's not, we're talking about this little saliva test that will probably take everybody a matter of a minute. So just that seemed to me that was this kind of the safest way to know if it's, if it's right here. And if we can cut down one person from getting it, we're saving the town, the trouble of closing the highway department for 14 days again. And I would just as soon keep it as far out of here as possible. And it just seemed like this was the easiest way to do that.
I have to say, as I'm just thinking about it, so what we have on the table is sort of, I'll call on a county level, sort of our community standard, but there's absolutely nothing that says we couldn't exceed that standard, right? If we felt we wanted to. I don't think, I actually think nothing that Bobby is proposing causes a greater likelihood of COVID, it might create a decrease. Breakthrough cases do happen. They're not, from what I've read, tremendously frequently occurring, but they can occur. And all of us then go out into the community. And, so I don't know that it causes any harm. So maybe it's, we try it for a month and we evaluate it next month and we see how's it going. Are there barriers? Are there problems? Is everybody healthy? Things like that. I don't see harm in what Bob's proposing.
So we're going to require testing for people who are vaccinated, is the proposal?
Can I just say, give my 2 cents for a second?
Sure.
Yes, Joe.
I just want to say from my point of view that I thought this testing policy was to encourage not only employees, but the public to get vaccinated. And from my point of view, that in this COVID policy that the county is proposing, it's for any individual who wants to be tested, regardless of vaccination status, can do it. So I don't see why there's any need to change that the way that it is. And if somebody that's vaccinated feels that they want to participate in this, then they should have that, be free to do that. But otherwise, I don't think it's necessary to have everybody that's vaccinated have to test.
I would support exactly what Jesse just said. And maybe just reiterate the language that the county states, that everyone has the option to get tested if they want to.
And that is the resolution, so.
And you all know, given my druthers, I would mandate that every town employee be vaccinated. So.
I mean, I think the question, right, that's being raised, and Bob, I'll, ask you directly because you're here. It's like, it doesn't sound like this is the idea of incentivizing a vaccine. In your view, that is not going to occur in your team?
I mean, I can't necessarily speak on behalf of everybody. What people say and what people do are always two different things.
Sure.
I was just looking at going above and beyond, and just trying to make something that we start out with just a little bit better. I also get, it's been said that the reason to do this was make it an inconvenience to get tested. Dan said that on a meeting a month or two ago. I get it, and I understand, the push for that to happen. But in the meantime, I'm just speaking from my experience. I did sit in an emergency room with COVID, with others that were vaccinated. That's the only reason I bring this up. It was just from my experience. And for me, it was just to go above and beyond and keep my guys safe, vaccinated or unvaccinated, but keep everybody just knowing, so that I don't have one guy that is, vaccinated and potentially carrying it around for 4 days before the rest of us actually find out it's there. It was just to protect everybody else. But I'm simply asking my guys, regardless of vaccination or not, to participate in being tested.
Right. And I think we all hear that. I obviously support, you and the team, really at every turn. And I hear you. And also the vaccine itself, the argument is that we want your guys to be safe. If they don't choose to be vaccinated, I guess that's up to them. But the vaccine itself is objectively puts them in a safer position than not being vaccinated. And I think that's what we're kind of after here.
Yeah. So this hasn't been a big conversation, amongst the guys.
Okay.
Like I said, we're kind of split in the middle. I do have vaccinated employees. And I believe I have unvaccinated employees. So it's just putting everybody you know, not necessarily singling half out and singling the other half out. It was just putting everybody on the same playing field, and this is the way that we're doing it. And, you know, like I said, I can't make everybody get tested at this point. But I am asking them to participate.
Are you getting any pushback on that? You know, just from sort of an ask perspective?
Not really. There's some, but it's not overwhelming at this point. So, I think they're on the same page, you know. The guys that are vaccinated, you know, are willing to do that, I believe. But like I said, what people say and what people do when the time comes is different. But I believe that they are, you know, willing to participate, you know, for the safety of everybody else.
But are
So
not
I-
willing to get vaccinated. Just
Um,
to be clear. I mean, because I'm not understanding what they're willing to get tested, but not willing to get
There is-
vaccinated. I'm not asking, I'm sorry that I'm asking you to like speak for them because I don't mean to, but you're here and they're not. And I'm trying to understand like
I would say that there are some that at this point do not want to be vaccinated.
Okay.
Like I said, we're kind of a split crew. So, me just getting over it. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm not, but I did just get over it. So there is a little bit of a time lapse there. Between, you know, the whole thing, the natural immunity and before I get, you know, vaccinated. So, I'm don't want to put it on the guys like I have 100% pushback because I don't. So, but there are, yes, guys that are at this point unwilling to be vaccinated.
So my own opinion is the resolution as it stands allows anyone who wants to get tested, whether they're vaccinated or not. And I'm comfortable, that's what I'm comfortable with. And I do think that it does follow the county policy. And
I'm really happy to hear Bobby taking this leadership in his shop, and I'd be happy if the town itself would recommend biweekly testing for everybody, just as a kind of a super valiant effort to beat this down, whether it's in the resolution or not. I think it'd be a great idea. And I guess then there's also then the question of what do you do with like the librarian and the historian and that sort of thing too, which is a real issue.
that's a good thought, Tim. I think.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts? And so from what you said, do you want to add language to the resolution or have a separate resolution that the town recommends testing? Is that what your suggestion is?
I wasn't thinking that legalese about it, but that would be fine with me. I mean, I was just
You just
hoping
meant
the
that.
town would go do this.
Okay. Great.
You know, just what it means to say everybody that part of the local government will be tested, then yeah. There's the town historian, the people that attend the library, and just all of a sudden it becomes a
Mhm.
Well, there's a difference also, Cal, between people who are only around occasionally and people with whom the public has regular interaction. I mean, the real issue of this, of course, is to make sure that the citizens or the employees who aren't vaccinated get tested. So we don't want to lose sight of that. I mean, that's the bottom line.
Right.
Right. What we're talking about is a moral boost above that. That's all.
So then I'm hearing we're going to just move forward with the resolution as written, and then we can, in our individual departments and ways, encourage people to, you know, get tested if they want to. But let's just keep our eye on the goal
Great.
here.
Thank you. That's what I'm hearing too. So if we're ready to, are we ready to vote on the resolution as written?
I move the question.
Okay. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
We need a second.
Hi,
Oh, okay.
did we have a second? We had a second.
Robert has spoken.
It
Robert,
was.
I thought I
seconded,
was the,
but It was
thought I was the
John that
second.
seconded.
We just
Okay.
forgot about you. We just forgot about you.
well,
just
we've been
happened a
talking
long
about it
time
for so
ago.
long. You can
Yeah.
understand that, yeah.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and do it again. So call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thanks, everybody, and thanks, Bob, for your input. And Jesse. All right. So the next item on our action topics is the discussion of the highway burn planning, the site consideration. So the idea here, I don't know if you want to take it away, John. So we.
Sure, yeah, I can, and Cal and Mark who were there, feel free to join in. So I mentioned last week, but I wanted to save some of it for when you were here, Tim. Is that we met with LaBerge a couple of weeks ago now. And I think it was actually a very productive meeting. We looked at two properties that the town has, which of course are our current facility and the Perkins Road property. And they've sketched out sort of some options on the properties with the building size that we would likely need. Discussion came up about a third property. And in that conversation, we talked about, and as we have here before, property that is potentially available adjacent to the Brooktondale Fire Station. And we talked a little bit about sort of pros and cons of them all. We didn't do any deep analysis of any of the properties. That's going to be, sort of another phase. But we did authorize them to at least look at what a facility would look like on that third property. The discussion, as we were having it, really started to go in a direction of down the road use of what we would vision could be additional use of the property. Like we were talking about things if the town ever had an ambulance again, or if we grew to the point where a public works department became necessary. And so we were doing a little bit of immediate need planning and a little bit of a discussion of possible future needs, ideas, and planning. And that's really where we got to the point of this would probably be an appropriate topic to bring back to this body. And I'm not necessarily saying that I think we need to kick all the ideas around tonight, but what I did want to do is start the gears turning of what are things we might think of that would be valuable for LaBerge to take into their consideration as they're thinking about these spaces, right? And, obviously Bobby had a lot of great input on that. Other things that we talked about had to do also with access to the different sites, road conditions in different areas, and, trying to mitigate, to have good access and mitigate any potential for bad outcomes. Like one of the things that was brought up in Perkins Road is the narrowness of the road and how it kind of feeds into the main road, and the ability to potentially control that in a safe way. Or if you were doing it from Whitechurch where it goes like this, right? No conclusions are reached, but really what LaBerge is trying to do is take all those factors into consideration. The next outcome from them will be a report with pros and cons of all of the sites. And then it's the job of the task force and the board to sort of absorb all of that and potentially come to a decision of what makes sense based on the needs that we've identified, the pros and cons of the different property options. And so that's kind of where we are, but it feels like a good place to be at. And so what I would kind of like to ask of this group, and this can include everybody on the call, of course, is to think about how might you see Caroline growing in the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years? Because we're probably building at least a 30-year building. And what might we need, A, from a building, and B, from the property the building sits on, if certain things were to grow? Did I say that clearly? I want to make sure, because it's a lot to unpack in there. And, again, I realize that's probably not a
So,
immediate,
John,
oh, it's this. Yeah, Mark, please add to it, or.
I was thinking
Mhm.
also, or more immediately about, so they're going to be getting back to us
Mhm,
sometime
that's right.
soon
Mhm.
with their evaluation of the properties and pros and cons of each
Right.
site. So I was just thinking it'd be good for the board, like, what are there things, and you've summarized some of the things, but, what are there any things they haven't thought of, or that we might think of that we think they should be paying attention to?
Yeah,
So,
Tim looks like he's got something.
One of the things that occurred to me, John,
Mhm.
is whether or not the comprehensive plan has been taken into consideration in terms of the goals laid out in the comprehensive plan, which would, mostly impact open space and land use.
Mhm. The answer is they do have a copy of the comprehensive plan, but I will double check with them to make sure they're factoring in. I believe with like 98% certainty, the answer to that is yes, but I will verify it.
Yeah, it would just be good that we have, since we have these different
Mhm.
initiatives going on around enacting the comprehensive plan, that it was in line with this.
Absolutely.
I would like to, and I think you've already, maybe, this is on their radar already, but I would like there to be, a really, serious focus on greenhouse gas emissions, and, I think geothermal heating and cooling should get a very serious look. So anything, in relation to energy efficiency and sustainability, I think is really, we're at a perfect point to do that, because we're going to be building at any one of the 3 sites will be from the
Mhm.
ground up. So,
Right. Yeah. That, thank you, Mark. I really appreciate you saying that. And that has been discussed as part of, that would probably ultimately be in the design phase, but it certainly needs to be part of the evaluation of the different sites for potential of that. So yes, absolutely. And I think that aligns with what Tim suggested. That's certainly in line with the comprehensive plan as well.
right.
Yep.
Another thought I had is, so at our meeting, they gave us kind of some templates for 2 building designs, and kind of like, do these fit here, here, here?
Mhm.
It's like that was the approach. And I got to thinking about that, and
Mhm.
what if we asked them, for each of these sites, tell us, given the attributes and the constraints of that site, what would you come up with? What could you come up with for a reasonable design? And so it might cost more in some cases, because of certain conditions, or less. But I was wondering, because that's
Mhm.
like when we first started, the discussion early on, like instead of a template that you would just match to, smack on the landscape, what if you said, what could work here? And if the answer is nothing, then that's the answer. But
Mhm.
so, yeah, that's one thing that I
Sure.
want.
Yeah.
If-
For context, because we're talking about a visual thing that a couple of folks haven't seen.
Yeah.
And I'll describe it as best I can, and apologies if I don't do as good a job as I hope I will. So they laid out a couple of designs, one that would be longer And so one of the longer ones that they showed us sort of had at one end of the building an entrance and the other end an exit kind of, and the trucks kind of come in and then they have to position themselves. And so that's one option. Another option had more of the, what I'll call the drive-through bays that were like, one here, but you could drive them through. And the third option was more like a square where you had three. And so some of the pros and cons that we discussed were in the 3-bay option or a 3 in a bay option. That creates some logistical challenges of, if you want to get to the one in the middle, you have to move a whole bunch of stuff to do it. Another option with the sort of the one way in and sort of configuring the trucks, that too has its challenges, space challenges, and it's actually a bigger building. And so I think what they were recommending would likely be the best option for most sites would be sort of the one where you had 2 to a bay drive through. But I can certainly, Mark, ask them to look at each property and say, with all these things in mind, is there a configuration that's particularly optimal? Does that get to your question or your comment?
Yeah,
Okay.
and so I was thinking about the particular case, the unique case of the existing facility.
Mhm.
Would there, would it be possible to, Cal and I were discussing this, could you, would there be a way to break it up, or is, we've considered, the one site we're considering, would be new territory? Are there places that we could expand? So
Can I jump in with a question that I'm sure is very elementary and is
Okay.
only, I'm sure everyone else is up to speed with this, but I am not. I am unclear on we're talking about design, but we don't even know where this thing is going to go yet. Like what is happening with selection? Like, why are we mixing all of these things? What is the process? Can we learn about the addresses of each of these locations? Because honestly, other than the current Highway Barn property, I personally, as a town board, I'm saying this on a recorded line, I'm embarrassed to tell you, I do not even know what you're talking about with the other sites.
Catherine, there's nothing to be embarrassed about. So let me back up and see if I can get to your question there. That's totally fair.
And if I don't know, then the public doesn't know. So we need to clarify.
Okay. Yeah, no worries. So first piece of it is, as we think about the needs of a future facility, we try and figure out what sort of footprint in terms of space of property do you need, right? And so we've got our current one, which has however much space it has. We've got the property we own at Perkins Road, and then we have the potential for a third property. I don't know the address of it off the top of my head, but it would be somewhat adjacent to the Brookendale Fire Department, to just kind of, which would be down the road from the current location, just to give you sort of a hopefully geographical marker. From there, through preliminary discussions that we've had and data they've looked at provided by the Highway Department, they know the size of things like our salt shed. They know how many vehicles we have and the size of those vehicles. They know sort of the rough dimensions that would be needed in a modern day, let's say, workshop and things like that. Space for the superintendent's office, bathroom, shower facilities, those types of things. So they take all that in general and they come up with a frame. I'll call it more like a frame than an actual design, if you will, that in rough terms lays out, this is with those elements about the size of building you'd be looking at. And then they take that and they literally, with their software, place it on X property and try and determine where on X property would that fit well, taking into consideration getting vehicles in and out of the property, other supporting structures you might need to put on the property, again, like the salt shed, access points to roads and things like that. From there, then they can also start to look at some of the things that Tim and Mark are talking about particularly potential for renewable energy and things like that. The actual, what does it look like? That's the later stage, right? That's sort of the phase 2 part where we get into the really true design elements of the building. What's it made of? Things like that. So right now we're really dealing more with the frame of it. And so part of the genesis of this discussion is to say, with what we know about the properties we have, what might be either some opportunities or concerns, and part B, what we know about our community and how we think it could grow and what future needs might be. How do we try and factor them into our thinking for a property selection, really? Does that help at all?
It does help. I guess I want to clarify, the town
Sure.
currently owns 2 of these properties.
2 of the 3. We have reason to
Property
believe
is
the
not
third.
sale.
What's that? It broke up. I didn't hear you. I'm sorry. Oh, I think she froze.
He's frozen.
I think I know the question she was going to ask. And
Wait.
she's back. You
Frozen.
froze, and
Okay.
I missed the last bit. I think what you were going to ask about the third property is it available?
I'm just
I think
confirming it's not for sale.
it is not listed for sale, but we have some reason to believe it would be available.
And am I correct that anything regarding this from here on out probably would need to go into executive session as a real estate discussion?
When we
Correct.
get in, if we were talking about acquiring a property, absolutely, that would be privileged. Yep. I think we're talking in, we're not talking details at this point that I'm concerned about that, but
I mean, I'm not concerned about the details of the financial
Mhm.
discussion. I'm just
Yeah.
Yep. So,
broadly, to my impression, and again, this is new to me, but like, it seems like
Okay.
it's dragged on. It seems like this has gone on for a long time, right? And we've been hearing about the new highway barns for, at least since, I don't know, a long time. So I guess what I would love to understand more of is like, what are the barriers? What is getting in the way of selecting a site and then moving forward?
nothing's in the way. This is what we're doing now as part of that process. So the information that we generate either in, and I'm taking notes of this conversation, or ones that anyone here might have, let's say tomorrow and be like, oh, we didn't talk about that, but we ought to think about that. That all gets funneled to LaBerge, who will then in the near future have a report for us
Okay.
to look at and consider. And one of the elements of that I don't think I added is that they will come to a meeting to talk us through it and be able to answer our questions as experts in that area.
And Catherine, let me follow up, because your question that's exactly one of the like pros and cons I was thinking of sort of for this discussion, do we own the property? Do we not own the property? I was thinking other general things like John mentioned access. I was thinking impact on the land, impact on local neighborhoods. These seem like things that,
Mhm.
They should be, considering when they develop their checklist.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
So we're waiting a report or something. from-
Correct. That's
Okay.
right. I'm sorry if I didn't make that clear at the beginning.
So what's the
And I-
timeline of getting this report?
It should be probably a couple of weeks. I believe we'll have it before our November board meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, so what Mark said is absolutely true. They'll look at the pros and cons, also look at, if we were to acquire property, the cost of that balanced against the cost of prepping a property we might already have there, or as well as prepping a property we might acquire, right? Those are all factors.
Thank you.
Sure. No, I really appreciate the question, and apologies if I assumed.
No, you're all good. I'm just trying to keep up here.
I'm pretty excited to be at this point. And I'm really thankful for you providing us with all of this information, which I just think is going to continue to be helpful from here on out.
We're getting there, Tim.
All a really good idea of what's going on. So thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And, thanks to Bobby and Mark and Cal, for all their input in it as well, because they were definitely key parts of the process.
And Catherine, to your point, this is this will be a big lift for the town.
Yeah.
So that's, part of the slowness with which things have gone, because there's a side of it, there's a lot to decide, and it's a little scary, and that's why we have a professional engineering firm like this. They've done this quite a few times before, and they've helped a lot of other municipalities and work through these things, and so.
Great. Any other comments for John or for the discussion?
Like I said, if there aren't any, I recognize that this is an iterative process and things will occur to us later that maybe we didn't now. So by all means, any ideas you have, please send them to me, and I'll definitely incorporate them and share them with the parish.
Perfect. Great. Thank you, John. Awesome. Okay. We took care of that one. I'll offer a resolution to authorization to approve the amendment to the town's HRA account with Lifetime Benefit Solutions. This is a really wonky thing related to COVID that basically provides it for what they call it the breakout period, a 1-year COVID breakout period. They don't count that against timelines that subscribers are subject to. So they basically are excused from that time period. And so this is a formality that so we need to authorize the acceptance of this amendment to the agreement. And so I'm offering the resolution for that reason. And so, yeah, let's see. Yeah. So whereas recent changes in the law allowing for elimination of the COVID-19 breakout period from time-sensitive periods for planned events, therefore be it resolved, the Caroline Town Board hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign the amendment to the town's HRA account with Lifetime Benefit Solutions. John jumped on that one. Is that a second?
It's a second, but it's also a question.
Okay.
But I realized you needed the second so we could have the question. I'm not clear from this, and I don't have an issue with it, but I want to make sure I understand it. I'm not clear what the actual amendment itself is. You may have talked about this a meeting or two ago, but the details have left my head.
I don't think I did.
Okay.
Or maybe I did. So I should have brought the language of the thing with me, but there are provisions in the HRA agreement that say subscribers have 30 days to change their plan in some ways. Well, if this 30-day period was interrupted by the COVID breakout period, they're excused from that time period.
Gotcha.
And so at the end of that time period, the clock starts ticking again, and so they get a hold on any time-sensitive timelines like that. Does that make sense?
Very much so. Yes.
Great. Any other questions? Are we ready for a vote? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Offer resolution recommending Steve Nicholson as the town's representative to the Environmental Management Council for the next 2 years, 22 and 23. Do I have a second?
Second.
I think Cal actually got it, Tim, right here, so.
Electronic delay.
Yeah, any further discussion? Steve's done this for some time. He's willing to do it. They're delighted to have him, and I will ask him maybe end of the year or sometime soon to give us an update on what EMC is doing. But anyway, without further ado, unless there are any questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Opposed? Great.
Mark.
Thank you.
Just when you're talking with Steve and sharing that, just want to express gratitude for his willingness to continue to do this work.
Okay,
He, when he reports back, he's always very, very detailed, and it's really clear that this is a passion thing for him, and it really serves his community well. I just want to recognize that.
okay. Very good, John. Thank you. Yeah. Do you want to back off on that vote and add the language to the resolution? I thought what you said was fine. We could do that. Something like,
I am okay. Jesse, did you capture what I just said? I know the gist of it, but I don't know the exact wording. I guess top of my head.
how about the town board wishes to express its
Gratitude.
gratitude.
Mhm. To Steve for his continued and excellent service in this role, something like that.
Service. Excellent. So the town board wishes to extend its gratitude to Steve, or its
Maybe it's
gratitude.
express its gratitude, I think is what we want, and probably what I meant.
Oh, yeah, the town board, yeah. Gratitude for his continued excellent service as EMC representative. Is that good? Great.
I like that.
Okay, I'll offer the resolution again for a vote as amended. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Thanks, John. All right. The next resolution is also a wonky formality. So this is, I'll offer the resolution, approval of the 2022 amendment to the municipal cooperative agreement for the Greater Tompkins County Municipal Health Insurance Consortium. This is a state requirement that the consortium members have to do every year when new members are added. And I think there are 2 towns and 2 villages that were added to the consortium this year. So, and I'm not going to read it. So unless you demand that I do so.
Did you read the whole MCA? It's only 100 and some odd pages.
Thanks, John.
I kid.
So did I get a second on this one?
I'll
Reading?
second it if you haven't.
Yeah, okay. And if there are no further questions, I'll offer it for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great.
How many members is the consortium up to these days, Mark?
Oh, gosh, I should know. I should have, I can't
Ish.
remember.
Ish is fine. Because we were.
What do you think it is? Maybe
I
50?
said, when I left it, we were in the 40s or just creeping into the 40s. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're up to 50 at this point, which is
Yeah,
a really great thing.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right.
Cool.
All right. I will offer the following budget transfer resolution, 6,100 from A 1990.4 contingency to A 1620.2 town hall equipment. That's basically to cover the stair glide installation. $200 from A 1010.4 town board contractual to A 3620.4 safety inspection contractual. 500 from A 1990.4 contingency to A 1620.1 cleaning personnel services, and 3,000 from A 1990.4 to A 1620.1 to maintenance personnel services. Do I have a second?
Second.
Tim.
I'll give it to you, Tim. Cal seeded it. So.
Then I'll vote yes.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Offer resolution to pay the vouchers in the totals of, for the A fund of $32,274.11. The DA fund, $229,581.75. And the SL fund, $238.80, but we're waiting for a Constellation bill, so that'll probably go up.
Jesse, I flagged one A fund where a 50-cent difference was missing.
Oh, okay. Did you flag it, Tim?
Yep.
Okay.
I flagged, I'm sorry, Tim, I didn't mean to interrupt. I saw that, by the way. I flagged one that is in need of a second signature, just FYI. I'm sorry, I don't remember which one, but it's tagged.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, thanks, Cal.
Sorry about that.
Great. Great. Thanks, everybody. All right. Call for a vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Good. Thank goodness you voted for that. That's good. And you'll see the large DA fund expenditure was related to the loader purchase, which is apparently over at the highway department somewhere. So, all right. I will, are there any comments on the October 5th agenda meeting minutes? I provided a couple by email, very minor things that Jesse incorporated with just a wording change on the tentative budget and an amount for our budget deliberations related to the highway clerical line to 17,000 was the recommendation from Bob. Any other comments for Jesse?
Great.
Awesome. Hearing none, the minutes of October 5th are thereby approved. And I will offer a resolution authorizing the supervisor to issue a letter of support to Union Volunteer Ambulance for expansion of their transport operating certificate in Broome and Tioga counties. Do I have a second?
Yes.
John's got that. Any further questions? And I hope you don't ask too many because I don't know much more about it, but.
Can you just read what the title that you just read already?
The letter?
Yeah.
You know what, Catherine, I could, if, do you want to, I can go grab it. It's next door.
Oh, no, just what you just said, what you just seconded. Can you just say that again?
Oh, read the title, read the resolution as I stated it?
Yeah.
Sure. So this is a resolution authorizing the supervisor to issue a letter of support to Union Volunteer Ambulance for expansion of their transport operating certificate in Tioga and Broome counties.
Okay. Letter.
So,
Got it.
and the towns affected that they listed are Richford, Berkshire, Newark Valley, and Owego. So off the southeast of Caroline. So. Great. If there's no further discussion or questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, everybody. Cal, did you want to mention water testing?
Yeah, so I checked with CSI about just checking the water at the fountain here in the town hall parking lot. It would be $45 per sample. Did some research on, what's recommended. Talked to the people at CSI every month for a year or every other month for 2 years to get a baseline. It would be checking for Leptosporidium and coliforms. I would.
And why those? Is that recommended?
It's just a standard microbiological. And you also started getting into very expensive tests if we start doing trace minerals and other potential situations. You're talking tests up to $700 and $800
For kryptonite and things like that. Yeah.
So, but just for standard microbiological test, I would like to recommend that a budget line be created for next 2 years in the amount of $270 to have a bacteriological check of the water done. I will take it on myself to do it, to get the bottles, take the sample and deliver it to CSI on Brown Road.
Okay. Did you do the math or are you just guessing?
No, I did the math.
Okay.
So.
Give the man some credit, Mark.
So I think it just would be advisable to have the water checked. I don't think we necessarily have to remove the sign that says use at your own risk. And maybe that's another issue that should stay that way, but I think just for our own peace of mind, reduction of liability if something ever did happen, and then it's just a record that's stored in a file by the town clerk.
Sounds good.
And then after
That's kind of like, recommending the COVID test. This is good public health policy, so why not?
Yeah, and then after that, like twice a year for going on after we get a baseline. Just if, if there are variabilities because of, water events.
Oh, I see.
So,
Yep, that sounds fine with me. Yeah, and thank you for taking it on. So,
yeah, I mean, you get into the whole thing and then results should be, reported to the state. I don't know that we want to get into all that, but just to have, that, look, we've tested it and if there's something the matter with if there's some concerns of coliforms or Leptosporidium, well, do something about it.
Then the sign gets even bigger and says, no, really, drink it at your own risk.
yeah.
Skull and crossbones, all of it.
Yeah.
We mean it now.
Yeah. So did you?
So I don't start that
find
in
them.
January.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So you'd like to make a budget line for that?
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Unless, there's
Sounds good.
another way that it should be done.
No, that's fine. That's easy enough.
That's my proposal.
Great. Okay. Anything else? So I will. Is there anything else for the body of the meeting?
Oh, wait a second. Bob, are you still here?
Yes.
If it should be done for the highway barn well.
Yeah, that'd be fine with me.
I didn't hear what you said, Cal. All right.
If it should be done, we should check the water at the highway.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I'm good with that, Cal.
Do people drink that water?
At the highway barn?
Yeah,
Yes and no.
I just pay the bill for spring water for the highway.
No, we do, but we also have public access to the building, so it doesn't stop somebody from coming in and getting a drink out of the faucet.
Mhm. Gotcha.
Okay,
So I propose the same thing, so that would double my estimate, not my estimate, my quote of,
your calculation.
yeah.
Well-researched data.
And there might be some room to reduce that rate because we are a cooperating municipality.
Oh, I was gonna ask about that. We are not only cooperating, but we are contributing.
Yeah,
So, quite a decent amount, so.
but it would
that'd be
be,
great.
it would be no more than $540 for both the town hall and the
Yeah.
town highway barn.
And since you, I mean, so you're proposing every other month? It could be quarterly, it could be whatever. but-
Yeah, I'm proposing every other month for 2 years, and then after the 2 years, let's revisit it. But I'm thinking after that, 2 to 3 times a year. Once in the spring, once in the fall. After the, snow melt in spring. and
Okay.
Before winter at the end of the summer.
Great. All right, thanks, everybody. I'll offer that sounds good, Cal.
Yeah,
Yep. Anything else?
or any questions, comments, concerns?
I don't think so. I don't, yeah, I don't think so. Follow up. So with that, I will offer a motion to enter executive session to discuss the contract highway proposal.
Mark, are we gonna have any budget workshops tonight or?
I had scheduled this budget workshop for the court.
Okay,
And we went through highway last week. I guess,
that's fine. I was just checking.
yeah, no, that's a good question. I guess I'm glad you brought it up because, so I did, so last week was kind of discombobulated with my technical difficulties with my spreadsheet. My thinking about the budget was to, I think the main discussion item for the highway is still the equipment line. And so I still need time to look at that more carefully, I feel. So I was thinking about at the next budget workshop, we would put together all the numbers and vote on them. We had just a very few adjustments last time from the tentative budget. So that was my thinking. And if we did that at, say, the first meeting in November will be November 3rd. And then we would schedule the public hearing out from that.
Mark, sorry, sorry, since I wasn't here last week, did you guys discuss your recommendations for town salaries, Mark, last week?
For what?
Salary. You
Oh,
evaluated the town salaries. Did you discuss that last week?
Yeah,
Okay.
so, and now that you mention it, so so this is an opportune time, so I think I should take a minute to do that. Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Jesse. Let's see.
Sorry, everybody. I've just extended our meeting time.
You'll pay.
My estimate is now 11 p.m., Tim. Thank you very much.
I'm sorry, it's my fault. I should have let it
No,
go.
it's not. It's not at all. I was already checking email to see if the justices had responded to Tim.
I've been
No, I'm
watching
gonna blame Jesse.
Don't blame Jesse.
Hmm. Okay, here we go. Oops. Okay. Am I sharing my screen with you now?
That'd be a big no.
You see it?
Nope.
See, John.
Oh, you see, John? Okay, thank you. I'm still messing up here. I'll get it though, don't worry. Back there, there. Okay, now share screen, share. And there. And there, okay. Now you're seeing it, right?
Yep.
Okay. So I did a regression of salary versus population for the justices. I did population served per justice. Here you can see the R squared 0.72 is very high, strong relationship. So I calculated if the justice's salary fell on the line for their population served, the salary this year would be 14,738. With a 2% raise to next year comes out to 15,032. So and the way I did it, for any line where I adjusted it up, then I gave them a 2% rise increase to the next year. If the salary fell below the line so that there was no adjustment, then I did a 4% increase to the next year. So now is this going to work? Let's see. No, going the wrong. Oh, I see what happened. Oh,
Now it's upside down.
okay.
No, not.
Are you seeing this?
Yes.
So here's the council person analysis. The R squared is 0.90. The population versus salary. And so the same thing comes out to 2692, and then a 2% to the next for the budget for next year would be 2746. And I'll just point out with this adjustment, Caroline town board members still end up at with the lowest salary. So, but that's how it would be if it fell on the line.
Mark, can I ask a question? And it probably pertains more to the justice salary than to this, but I guess it would be the same. Did you calculate after you did these adjustments? In other words, what you did an adjustment and then you added 2% for 2022, right?
Right.
Did you calculate whether the final number was 4% or more from the current salary? You hear what I'm asking? Just in
Yes,
case it would
I
fall
didn't
below
have to calculate
4%.
it. I didn't have to calculate it, yes, but that's something to watch, I agree.
Okay,
But yeah, it absolutely was, yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So these three adjustments were, they weren't small. So that's the council person.
what is the current town council person salary?
Oh, it's on the in the spreadsheet there.
Sorry.
Here you go. So currently, council members in Caroline 2387. And so this, my calculation would boost it to 2746.
And do employees have the option of waiving their raises?
No.
I don't believe so, but you could donate it back to the town if you wish to.
Yeah.
Just wondering how it works.
Or hypothetical employee could donate it back to the town if they wish
I
to.
mean, so the way this will work in actuality is we as a board will vote on each line, on each salary line. And so this is what I'm offering for each elected position based on these calculations, but we'll vote for each line. And what I was thinking, I understand that council members don't really want to vote for their own salary, so I could break you out into individual lines in the budget sheet, and then you could abstain from your own vote. But anyway, that was just a kooky thought. So this is the town clerk calculation. And the same approach. So Jesse's currently at 34,442, and this would boost it to 37,726. This is the highway superintendent. And so Bob's currently at 65,960. He's, this analysis, a fairly strong relationship, again, 0.60, comes out just a bit below that. And so next year it would be here. So in the tentative budget, what I did, Bob's salary is increased by 4% for the next year because it's not adjusted in this method. And here's the town supervisor, which came out comparable to the highway superintendent. So I'm at 19,312 this year. Again, a decent relationship. Comes out to 18,023 this year, and then with a 2% to the next year, it would be 18,383. So I didn't change either of those. Let's see. Yeah, so I mean, I guess my thinking is, I think this was, it was a reasonable way to approach an across the board salary adjustment for elected officials. The way I started out when I first started thinking about the budget was just to do it across the board, 4% across all positions, but that doesn't make any kind of an adjustment for lines that we think might be out of whack a little bit. So good. I'm so grateful that yeah, I shared that. Let's see.
Mark, did you also share the court clerk? I don't recall us seeing that.
I didn't do the court clerk. I can tell you that, for all non-elected positions, I gave a 4%.
Non-elected, sorry, I wasn't thinking. I understand.
Yep. And I did do a comparative analysis of court clerk wages countywide like last year, and ours is very competitive. It's at the top. It's very solid. So
Thanks.
Yep. Let's see. And if I mean, I can pull up the tentative budget worksheet if people have any questions about that. There it is. Yeah, so the town board, here are the calculations. Here how things come out for the elected positions, salaries, and my budget spreadsheet shows the % increase for each of those positions. So town board would be a 15% increase, 8.5% for the justices, let's see, I also tried to clarify, when I budgeted hours for non-elected positions, I based that on estimated, what's happening this year. That doesn't mean that's what the wage rate would be. So for those positions, I'm going to recommend a 4% increase for those positions. So. But that'll actually be separate from the actual budget. That's something we'll have to codify in a separate resolution. Any other budget questions? I sort of jumped in quickly last week and sort of felt bad about that. So when I do my tentative budget, I get requests from each department. Then I take those numbers and I look down the lines and I compare that to, I'll look at other things like, what's spent year to date. And that's why when I send out the budget request to each department, I provide everybody that same information. So, so that's why I might adjust it differently. And then that's a point of discussion with the department going forward in our budget discussion. So.
Can I ask my fellow board members whether anyone other than me has qualms for whatever reason about a 15.1% increase for board members' salaries?
I don't, and since it doesn't actually affect me since I'm stepping off, I think why I feel that way, Tim, a couple of reasons. One is, while the jump in percentages, if you look at it as a percentage, is pretty like, wow. The actual dollars behind it aren't very many comparatively. And I think it's really, sort of an equity issue comparative to other salaries in the region. Granted, nobody does this for the money, clearly, but I don't think it's out of line to try and bring it more to parity with other board members in neighboring communities. So my 2 cents.
Good, thank you, John. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I agree with John.
Great. I also want to point out, it's like, it's an unfortunate circumstance of the way things work, but the only way that town board members are going to get a raise is if town board members vote for it.
No, I'm not worried about voting for it. I'm just
Yeah.
raised the general optical issue and wonder maybe whether one might consider doing it in 2 stages to catch up by next year. For me, it's more of an optical sensitivity issue.
Yeah, I guess my reply to that would be the hope that, that's the analysis I did, I think speaks for itself. And
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all.
okay, so yeah, okay. I think Tim asked the original question of other board members, so I'll be quiet here. So if anybody else wants to chime in.